Spoilers for Captain America 4. If you had gone up to me and my mother as we were leaving the theaters in 2012, having just seen Marvel's The Avengers, and tell us that in just over a decade we would be begging the MCU to end, we would both be understandably confused. Mostly because somebody is running up to us talking about time travel, which nobody believes, but also because Marvel's The Avengers was a really good movie. And yet, here we are, Captain America 4, Brave New World, and I am more excited than ever for Secret Wars, because it means the agony may finally end. I will not watch the X-Men reboot. I just don't care anymore. I've left most of my MCU watching up to the whims of my own mother, because she is the only one who still gets genuinely excited when Marvel Entertainment plops itself on our screens. In 3 to 5 years, I really doubt anyone will remember that this movie came out. I felt nothing but apathy leaving the theater after watching this movie. It feels a lot like Echo in my opinion. It's not offensive enough to make everyone like super angry and we're gonna discuss this for the next 3 years and it'll be a movie that will forever be talked about. It's more just something people will discuss, you know, because it's Captain America, which is more than Echo could say. But otherwise, I don't know. I don't think anyone's gonna really be like, oh man, I can't wait to put on Brave New World again, especially once we get something like Secret Wars. Honestly, it felt like a movie that had nothing happen in it. No character arcs, no themes, no story beyond and then writing. Things happened in the story, but nothing of substance happened in the story. No changes in the characters. I couldn't tell you what makes Anthony Mackie's Captain America different from Chris Evans's Captain America because Anthony Mackie's Captain America just doesn't do anything. He does generic superhero stuff where he hunts down the truth, beats up the bad guy. Not a single person laughed at a joke in my movie theater. My mom and I were the only people that actually laughed at some of Marvel's attempts. I laughed the most at the fight scenes. When Harrison Ford spawned in on Air Force One on a brand new Peloton. I laughed at the simple idea of 90-year-old Harrison Ford moving on a Peloton and just thinking to myself, is this CGI? And the CGI in this movie is awful. The fight scenes in this movie are along the lines of The Last Jedi, but every fight sequence is a close-up shot. I honestly wish I could see the other two versions of this film. What could they possibly have had in them that was somehow worse than what we got? Was their hatred for Donald Trump so intense in this movie that it's hollow without it in it? Was racism that important to this version of Captain America that you couldn't even think of another story to look at with him? There wasn't another Captain America story that you could pursue. I'm not even that big of a Hulk fan, and oh my god, I am so sorry Hulk fans. You deserve better. Hopefully when they give up on a cinematic universe, somebody will just be like, okay, can we just make a World War Hulk and just make it he fights superpowered beings? Universal, just pay Universal for the rights for a second. Just one World War Hulk movie and make it just good. Nonetheless, we have to endure the fact that this movie does exist and that it tried very desperately to be like the Winter Soldier, but it is in no way the Winter Soldier. Not even close. This movie is barely Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that's saying a lot. By the way, they bring up the Sokovian Accords, but they don't actually talk about how the Sokovian Accords have been repealed, so I have no idea if the Sokovian Accords have been repealed. She-Hulk has nothing to do with this. Bruce has nothing to do with this. Betty Ross has 10 lines in the entire movie. 10 lines in the entire movie. And before we begin, to simply get it out of the way, I am going to say every single line Betty says in Captain America Brave New World. Hello, I'm sorry, I should have called after the attack at the White House. Are you okay? Yeah, that could be nice. Bye, Dad. Hi, Dad. It's alright. You can just sit and talk for a little while. Me too. And that is it. That is all Betty Ross says in Captain America 4, Brave New World. That is the greatest sin, I think, ever committed by Marvel Cinematic Universe. I believe Qui-Gon had significantly more to say, just in general, even though he may have said less in words. Disney can just pluck any human being from any point in any of their movies that they are filming and attach them to anything else that they want and just throw them in there to say whatever they want to say. Betty Ross is a huge part in the nerds marketing this movie, but she says 10 things. 10 things! I don't understand. Anyways, the movie begins without the classic MCU introduction. Instead, it's just the Marvel Studios logo in black and white for a second. Not in like a old-timey black and white, but more two boxes, one black, one white. An attempt to show that, ooh, look, this movie is dark and edgy. We're all about the themes of black and white politics. We open up on Ross's inauguration speech. We see him take a tiny little pill from his little capsule. Probably because he had some sort of a stroke during Civil War, and this is probably some sort of medication that helps him with that stroke. He goes on stage, daring to go past the bulletproof glass to wave to all the people that voted for him. He goes up on his podium and comments on the blip occurring and a giant celestial being rising out of the Indian Ocean. It's interesting that they already know what he is. I don't know who did they talk to? Did the Eternals go on a press tour and they were like, hey, by the way, this is a celestial being and it tried to rise out of the earth, but Cersei turned it into stone, except she missed a spot and left some adamantium in it, apparently. So have fun with that, I guess. We gotta go get him back from the giant red space god that appeared and took him away. We gotta go hunt him down with Harry Styles. But the rest of the Eternals left with Harry Styles. Who was around to tell them what this was? How does anyone know what the heck this giant man that rose out of the ocean is? This is when you first notice that the music begins to insist upon itself, because Ross's speech is very calm and normal, the sort of thing you would expect a president to say, and it plays this dark, sinister, oh my god, look at this evil man rising, President Ross! And in my head I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with Ross? Why wouldn't he be president? At this point, he's probably the only one that could survive. By the way, are we still at war with the Skrulls? Did we declare war on the aliens? What was the other president? Who's Ross's vice president? Who is his running opponent? What other platforms did he run against? How many votes did he win? What states did he win the most in? What states did he lose the most of? Did he win California? Did he win Virginia? How about Nevada? Texas? Montana? Illinois? Wisconsin? Hawaii? Alaska? What other platforms did he run on? What was he talking about? So Ross goes up on stage. He says that we need to do all of this together. We need to work together. And then people are like, well, he says that he wants to work together, but what about his past where he was hunting Captain America because the other Captain America got everyone in trouble because they refused to work with the Sokovian Accords, which have been repealed by this point, but we're not allowed to talk about. And Sam just gets introduced in the movie by just watching news interviews about Ross, and that's it. He orders a beer and is about to pay for it, and then someone says, nah, Cap, it's on the house. And he's like, oh, thanks. And he says the person's name. I guess it's a bartender that Sam somehow knows, so Sam says his name and he says thanks. He's just watching President Ross's inauguration, doesn't really say anything else, and that's it. That's Captain America's introduction scene of this movie. The next time that we see him is the big action scene that's in all the advertisements. In the opening sequence when he's becoming president, they do a weird thing where they retcon in that he made some sort of fiery remarks when he was interviewed by people during his time hunting the Hulk. And that, for some reason, is something that people have been talking about for at least 20 years, past the point of where he became Secretary of State General, like, worked with the Avengers, worked with Tony Stark, fought off Thanos, like, he's done all of this stuff, and they're like, oh, but he made a bad speech back in 2008. They use footage from the 2008 Hulk movie, which makes me just really sad because it makes me think of fonder times. They seem to imply that Ross and Stearns are the only people who are in trouble about Abomination. Abomination doesn't get mentioned at all. Not him getting sent out of prison, not him getting sent back into prison. And then we cut to the bad guy of the movie, Stearns, as he goes to his evil laboratory in a secret military laboratory way out in the middle of nowhere. And then it goes to the logo, Brave New World, flashing us with blue lights. And then it cuts to 5 months later. It starts as every Captain America movie seems to start, with Captain America starting off in an airplane. Although this time, Captain America is already flying, and it's actually Joaquin Phoenix looking at a camera looking at bad guys sitting in a courtyard outside. He asks Military Man what they're looking for here, and Military Man says it's classified, and Joaquin Phoenix just goes, ah, of course it is. Military Man tries to tell Captain America where to go in stealthily to not get the hostages killed, and Captain America says, stealthily, you must be new here. He moves faster than the speed of sound, lands on boots that are not made out of vibranium, and causes a sonic shockwave because he moved so quickly that he broke the sound barrier and just created a sonic boom, removes his nano helmet so that way people can see his face and shoot him in the head easier, I guess. He then proceeds to beat up all the guards, and he is shot at several times by several machine guns around the entire perimeter of the building. It is very loud. There are, in fact, I believe RPGs used against him, and then causes a sonic blast and then uses the shield. Joaquin Phoenix starts out as tech support, but then once somebody runs off with the adamantium, he decides, oh, I'll go in my super suit and I'll go get it. Red Wing discovers where Giancarlo Esposito is standing. You can see that is on the second floor of the building. There is a grenade launcher that has gone off. There is a vibranium shockwave. He moved faster than the speed of sound and landed so fast that it created a sonic shockwave. It has sounded like a massive war zone outside. Giancarlo Esposito is sitting inside, torturing a priest, asking where the buyer is. He has not heard any of the bullets, the grenade launchers, the men screaming in pain, Captain America's quips, Red Wing flying around, lasers, jet streams, sonic booms, vibranium sonic booms, none of it. He hasn't heard anything. A security guard calls in on a walkie-talkie and says Captain America is here, causing Giancarlo Esposito to turn around and give just the greatest meme face I have ever seen him give since Breaking Bad. It is amazing. It is honestly the only reason that this movie is good. Giancarlo Esposito gives 2 meme face-worthy moments. Captain America, who has not moved stealthily because he does not care about the hostages at all, walks into a hallway. He uses his jetpack to boost around, fly into people. There's a moment where somebody grabs the shield out of his hands and just takes it away from him. Goes to a woman terrorist who's holding the nun and priest hostage, and then he uses Red Wing to knock them out with an electric stun gun, which you'd think would cause them to accidentally pull the trigger, but thankfully does not. Captain America reveals that he can speak Spanish and Japanese in this movie. Ooh, he is multilingual. Isn't that so cool? Joaquin Phoenix says that, oh no, Giancarlo Esposito is going to the church and somebody's getting away with the adamantium. Looks like you need somebody to come and get both of them. And then Captain America says, alright, but don't die. Captain America shows up into the church and throws a shield to Giancarlo Esposito, but Giancarlo Esposito dodges, even though the shield would not have hit him at all because it was heading towards a pillar and some candles. Giancarlo Esposito does some quips and reveals that there is a giant man that Captain America must fight. The giant man that is in every single MCU fight scene shows up and decides to rip away Captain America's shield. They begin to quip and take off their sunglasses because they are fighting indoors. Meanwhile, Joaquin Phoenix flies by and knocks out the 3 bikemen, does a joke that absolutely nobody has laughed at. Captain America tries to do the cool thing from Captain America 2, but then gets immediately beat up and thrown into a bench because he is a much smaller human being, and thus, for some reason, much weaker than this normal guy. However, thanks to the power of Marvel, since they quip, that gave him enough strength to overpower the giant man who he had just recently beaten. Apparently, a knee to the face was the only way to beat a guy with knives in his hands. It is revealed during this fight that Cap's suit is actually not made out of vibranium, it is just the wings. But only his wings. Joaquin's wings are made out of whatever the US government made. So are they part of the US government then? Shouldn't that mean that the wings are part of the US government now?
Not getting that shield back, am I?
Technically, it's the government's property. Wings, too.
It's cold. Warmer than jail.
Either way, Sam's suit gets damaged by knives, and he almost dies. It ripped through his star. Then he got angry and decided to break the giant man's arm and knock him unconscious. He then decides to do the Captain America shield pickup thing where you kick the shield up and then it lands in the arm and it's super cool. But for some reason, it doesn't make the same sound effect as it has in the entirety of the MCU, so it's less impactful. And then nice military man shows up and he says, damn Cap, you should leave more for the rest of us. The guy's like, haha, no. And then we see that Harrison Ross has shown up to Betty's mother's grave, and we actually get an interaction where he talks about it. And then Agent Taylor appears. I do not know who Agent Taylor is, but she is some lady that is intensely close to the president. She's super close to the president, also happens to be friends with Captain America. When did they meet? No idea. Who is she? No idea. Is she head of the Secret Service? No idea. Is she his vice president? No idea. She's just some lady that Harrison Ross really trusts, and also Captain America really trusts. Harrison then gets a phone call revealing that the crime in Mexico has been solved. And then Cap comes out and says, it's suspicious how easy this kind of was, wasn't it? Huh? It's kind of weird, isn't it? And Soldier Man was like, don't worry about it. Anyways, my brother is in the Air Force, you know. My brother joined the Air Force because of you. You're so inspirational. You inspired my brother to join the Air Force. You are such an inspirational Captain America, Captain America. Captain America's like, thank you, Soldier, for being very inspired by me. And then Soldier leaves, and then Joaquin Phoenix walks in off screen and says, oh man, look at how cool I was. I didn't even die. He's like, look, I'm not even gonna get injured in this movie. Isn't it so cool? And then Sam and him have a banter scene as the adamantium is traded literally right in front of their faces and they don't even bother to look and just go, that looks strange. I wonder what that could possibly be. It's not in a box, it's not moved anywhere else, it's just transferred right in front of their faces. Literally, nice military man is just holding the thing. And like, hang on, wait, could you just give me one peek so I can see what it is? Joaquin Phoenix asks Captain America to train him. Captain America doesn't want him to be a sidekick and then says he doesn't want to train him and then says, okay, I will have Isaiah train you, but he's not going to be nice to you. Joaquin Phoenix says, nah, he'll love my charm. And then it hard cuts from Mexico all the way to Baltimore. I guess we're done with that scene. And they have gone to some random gym in Baltimore that Isaiah owns. It's like a proper classic gym, but it has all sorts of weird tech stuff inside. It has really high-tech punch pads. I've never seen them before in my life. Joaquin plays the weird, jerky sidekick and goes like, hey, I'm so great, I'm so cool, who's this old man, And then it's revealed, oh my god, it's Isaiah Bradley, the lost Captain America. They have retconned him into being the second ever Captain America. They have retconned him into being the first ever black Captain America, meaning Anthony Mackie's Captain America means nothing anymore. You have Isaiah Bradley. Isaiah Bradley is the most important Captain America now. Apparently, if you have super soldier serum, whatever nation you happen to be serving, you are captain of, because that is how super soldier serum works now. There are a lot of people with super soldier serum. You know that the Hulk is technically a super soldier serum? Is the Hulk the third ever Captain America? Does that mean Abomination is a Captain America? You know Jennifer counts as a Captain America then. You know that Stearns technically counts as a Captain America then. Well, maybe. No, he got it from Bruce's blood. Stearns is a Captain America because he got a super soldier serum directly into his brain. And by the way, he says, Isaiah Bradley, the lost Captain America, everything about you is legendary. Hey, why weren't you out there more? We could have used you more after Korea. And then Isaiah has to say, the government put me away for 30 years and experimented on me. And then Joaquin Phoenix just goes, oh man, that's rough. And it's like, there's a museum dedicated to Isaiah Bradley. And I'm pretty sure that they made sure to include that he was kidnapped by the US government. For some reason, this movie continues to insinuate that Isaiah has a deep hatred for the United States of America for keeping him in prison. They experimented on him. For some reason, some nurse helped him escape. We still have no idea who this nurse lady is. It is never brought up. She is never explained. Not once. And for some reason, this hatred of America, for some reason, being the one that held him hostage, which is the reason why he hates Ross. Ross, who is not the president that was holding him hostage the whole time. And it's like, dude, you're in the Smithsonian. You're training the most recent Captain America. Like, what is going on? Then they play some sort of tag where it shows that Isaiah is very slow and bumbling. If he hits you, it'll really hurt, but you can so easily dodge him. Kind of doing oh look, Captain America is a lot more agile against stronger and bigger opponents. Cap gets hit by Isaiah and it knocks him out for several seconds. Then he gets a phone call and takes 5 while saying he's not taking 5. And then he says out loud, yes, I will hold for the President of the United States. And Isaiah gets sad and walks off into the other room. And then Cap has a phone call conversation, which we don't hear. He then goes into Isaiah and they talk about how, oh, are you upset because the US government experimented on you 30 years ago? Just doesn't say about me. Yeah, Captain America should not answer to the President of the United States of America. That is what Isaiah Bradley is upset with. Captain America should not represent Captain America. Captain America should not represent America. Where have I heard that come from? They bring up Civil War for a little bit, and it's like, yeah, and remember when Ross cleaned up the entire Red Room and Black Widow used him and they had like a conversation that would have actually explained a lot, but it was a deleted scene? He also doesn't mention Vision, because apparently Vision just doesn't count, so that's nice. He then reveals that Harrison Ross has invited him to the White House, and he said that he would go, but Isaiah and Joaquin Phoenix have to go with him. So they do decide to go after joking that Isaiah doesn't have a suit. He says he does have a suit, and then Cap says, well, why are you in sweats all the time? And it's like, well, he was just training in a gym. You wouldn't wear a suit while you're training in a gym. You wouldn't fight Captain America in a suit. And then they get into a limo. And Captain America reveals that he's been code switching this entire time. And we have to deal with it now. We have to deal with Captain America revealing that he has been code switching this entire time. Because he starts acting ghetto. It's the only way I can really describe it. And this may just be a cultural thing. This may just be a cultural thing for me personally. But I felt like Captain America acted a little bit too weird. Saying things like, now you're going to the White House, you looking good, OG. I told you I was gonna get you out of those sweats. Isaiah reveals that this is the suit he got married in. Aw, how sweet, how lovely. He really loves this suit. This suit means a lot to him. This suit reminds him of his wife. It's very nice. It's a very lovely suit. It looks nice. They say his wife would be proud of him, and this is probably one of the only times that his wife is ever mentioned in the entire MCU. Isaiah says he's walking into the belly of the beast. The man who has a statue in the Smithsonian says he is walking into the belly of the beast by going into the White House. Joaquin Phoenix then says that they need to party and celebrate because they are going to the White House, and that is a really cool thing. Cap remarks that they sent them a limo to take them to the White House, and that is just wild. He says, and they sent us a limo. What? And we look good. What? Old good? You got your smell good on. What? And they sent us a limo, man. What? Got the hound suit on, and we got the good stuff, as Captain America lifts a bottle of champagne in the limo and says, it's party time. Now, it's okay that they are excited and having fun. Personally, I don't know. This just feels weird. It just feels like he's been code switching the whole time. That he's just been pretending to be a certain way, and now this is who he really is. It just feels weird to me. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It feels weird. I don't think Captain America should be sitting in the limo going into the White House going, oh man, look, they even sent us the good stuff. What? We good, yo. Anthony Mackie's Falcon has always kind of felt like a normal person. Why is it that when him, Isaiah, and Joaquin Phoenix are in the limo, they can't talk like normal people? This is the only time in the movie that they really talk like this, so I have to infer that this scene is meant to be a code switching reference. Knowing that this movie had 3 different shoots and one of the first versions was very political, this is probably from the first version. Sam's from Louisiana. Why is Sam coming from Louisiana talking like this? And Isaiah talking like this doesn't make any sense. He's a soldier that fought in Korea. He's from a completely different time period. He feels like he would be the kind of old man that would want to be respectful and nice and, like, you know, taking things very seriously and like, oh man, we're going to the White House, we better act like on our best behavior. And instead he's like, oh man, yeah, oh look at my suit, oh we're so cool, oh we're gonna drink all this champagne and have a fun time. It's just weird. They show up to the White House, they get a photo taken of them, then they go inside and decide to take a selfie. Isaiah has been revealing through the movie that he is a old man who does not understand how phone works, and Joaquin Phoenix has been revealing that he is a tech guy who is very good with phones because he is a tech guy who helps fight along Captain America by using the US government's weird tech things for some reason. Harrison Ross calls Captain America in for a private conversation. Taylor, whoever she is, tries to tell Sam to be open-minded as he goes in. Apparently somehow she knows that the Avengers are going to be reformed. We enter into Ross's office and he is talking to some random people who work at the White House. No idea who these people are or what they're doing. They comment about how much Ross has changed, physically and in his habits. He no longer smokes a cigar. Instead, he sucks on some sort of lollipop, some sort of nicotine lollipop, and they remark that he's even had to shave his mustache, which is the only respect the original Ross actor is gonna get in this movie, sadly. But remember, it's too controversial to recast T'Challa. Harrison tries to talk to Captain America and open up, saying, hey, we've gone off on the wrong foot. I chased you down after the Accords, but we need the Avengers now more than ever. We need superheroes and we need for them to work alongside us. Sam even says, and what happens if there's a situation that we don't agree on? And Ross says, we'll see what happens when we get to there. He seems open-minded. He seems open. He seems willing to work with Captain America this time. He seems less hard stance than he was during the Sokovian Accords, even though they get brought up, even though they've been repealed. Ross thanks Captain America for saving the hostages in Adamantium from Serpent. He gives the generic, listen, I know we might have gotten off on the wrong foot, but now we need to start working together. Hey, why don't you form the Avengers? And as soon as he says, hey, why don't we form the Avengers, the music goes all sinister and dark.
Which is why I want you, Captain America, to help me rebuild the Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yes, sir.
Oh, with all due respect, sir, when you passed the Sokovia Accords, you tore the Avengers apart. Why the change of heart?
I represent all Americans now.
For some reason, reforming the Avengers is a bad thing. For some reason, they've decided that the only way to reform the Avengers is under the authority of the United States government, which has nothing to do with Sokovia, because the Sokovian Accords were made by the UN, not the US. The Avengers would have to work for the UN, not the US government. Again, it's unclear who actually would be part of the Avengers at this point, but either way, Sam seems incredibly hesitant to reform the Avengers, especially if it has to work for Ross. However, Ross seems incredibly open to letting the Avengers pretty much do whatever they wanted to do, as long as they help America out and ensure that Ross is able to maintain the appearance of changing, which he seems to genuinely want to do. This entire movie, Ross seems to genuinely want to actually change. Ross seems to have done a full 360 on the man who would have created the Sokovian Accords. The only problem is that Stearns was giving him a pill that was keeping him alive, or at least make him think he was keeping him alive, but was actually turning him into the Hulk. So Ross wouldn't let Stearns go because Stearns made sure that Ross wouldn't let him go. So Stearns got mad that Ross wouldn't let him go, and thus decided to start a world war over adamantium, which he apparently has no interest in. He has no actual interest in collecting the adamantium sample at all. In fact, Serpent Society that he hires seems to really not have any idea that they're working for Stearns. Giancarlo Esposito goes off screen to go hunt down Stearns. He meets Stearns, I guess maybe gets brainwashed by Stearns, and then comes back to try to kill Cap, just for Cap to knock him out, so that way Cap can throw him in prison, so that way Cap can interrogate him, and then that way Giancarlo Esposito can be locked in prison. And now, all in all, when you say it like that, you realize Giancarlo Esposito does 1, 2, 3. Giancarlo Esposito only does 3 things in the movie. He's the bad guy that's the opening fight bit for Captain America. He tries to kill Captain America again, and then they do the interrogation scene where he reveals that, yeah, it's Stearns, and then I don't think we ever see him again. What a waste of Giancarlo Esposito. Wow, even Far Cry 6 was better than this. If you want to see Giancarlo Esposito play a villain, watch Breaking Bad, or play Far Cry 6. At the very least, he's entertaining. Giancarlo Esposito only has 3 scenes in the entire movie. Liv Tyler only has 10 lines in the entire movie. Isaiah Bradley only really shows up occasionally in the movie. Controversial Lady is like there. Anthony Mackie's Captain America doesn't feel like a Captain America. It just feels like some guy. He just feels like some other superhero. The shield doesn't even have the same sound effects that Chris Evans's shield does. Marvel, why are you making the shields have different sound effects? They're not different shields. Walker's shield should have a different sound effect, but Sam's shield should sound the same, and it just doesn't. At least not to me. Stearns is in a prison that you can just reach your hand through, push a button, and open the first gate for. Yeah, Ross says that he represents all Americans now, and that half of them wouldn't be here without the Avengers. He understands that the Avengers need to be functioning in order for the world to be protected. He is not trying to completely take over, like he did in Civil War. At least it's not intended to be that way. He seems to be mostly genuine about everything that he wants to do. He simply wants to get adamantium and spread it across the world. There is no real secret plans that he wants to keep it solely for himself. There may have been, but it is unclear. Would he have used Stearns for the adamantium and just made it solely for himself? Couldn't he just have put Stearns in charge of adamantium and just said, hey, I'll just put you in a really nice house if you just keep building adamantium weapons and medicines for me? Like, just go up to Stearns and be like, I need you to help us use adamantium to become just as strong as Wakanda. I will give you the nicest house, and an Abomination is able to get like 8 different wives. I think we can give the leader at least 1 or 2 women to just hang out with so that way he's not bored. He's a being that sees all eventualities, so he doesn't do anything to rectify the fact that he's going to be mad at Ross for going back against his deal. He literally says, I saw that this was coming and I'm still mad that you did it. It doesn't make any sense. He literally just says we'll figure it out together. He says that he wants to work together with Captain America to reform the Avengers with the US government as a massive ally. They keep saying that it's bad to work for the United States government, yet every time they start a Captain America movie, he's working for the United States government. Technically, it was S.H.I.E.L.D. and Winter Soldier, yes, and then technically it was working as just a solo independent Avengers in Civil War. However, being an independent solo Avengers in Civil War is a bad thing and is explained as a bad thing. And when he was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. in Winter Soldier, that was technically because S.H.I.E.L.D. is working for the World Community Council, World Council, something. So in a sense, Cap was working for the UN, something he didn't want to do during the Sokovian Accords. Sam starts Falcon and the Winter Soldier working as a free agent for the United States government in Syria, or something like that. And then he starts this movie working for the United States government because the president called and asked him to help. And so he said, yes, I will work for you and help retrieve adamantium that the Japanese had stolen because the US government has asked me to help. So he doesn't want to work for the US government despite already working for the US government, and he has a best friend who is a Secret Service agent who works for the US government, and his teacher was Isaiah Bradley, a man who served the US government during Korea. Joaquin Phoenix is just working for the US government. He was working for the US government in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Then he gets beat up and decides, nah, I'm only going to work for Falcon. And then I guess he's just working for Falcon, but he starts this movie off and it still seems like he's working for the US government. And Rhodey works for the US government. Bucky serves as a member of the US Congress. Bucky is a congressman. Rhodey was like a Secretary of State, or at least Skrull Rhodey was a Secretary of State. There are more Avengers in charge of the US government after the Sokovia Accords than there were before. Sam shows off that he knows Japanese, and the Japanese Foreign Minister just goes, oh wow, you know Japanese. Captain America knows Japanese. Ross decides to use Cap to take pictures, and Sam acts slightly perturbed about it, I think. It's really hard to tell because his face never really emotes anything. It's really hard to tell what he's thinking or feeling. I can't tell if he's really upset about being asked to reform the Avengers or really like considering it. He tells Joaquin Phoenix and Isaiah that he's been asked to reform the Avengers, and they say, oh, that's really cool. And then he's like, nah, but we'd have to work for the US government. And then Ross reveals that what the secret thing was that Giancarlo Esposito was, I guess, trying to steal or buy or sell or something in Mexico turns out to be adamantium, which is being mined from a research laboratory that is already somehow inside the head of the Celestial. The Celestial that Cersei turned into stone is made out of adamantium, even though she turned it into stone. So, thanks, Cersei. But don't worry, she's off planet, so she has no idea that this is happening. And in fact, none of the Eternals know that this is happening. He says that with France, India, and Japan's help, they'll be able to counteract Wakanda's vibranium and actually help the rest of the world. Instead of doing what Wakanda did, which was say, yes, we would like to help everybody, then have a king die, and then just go, actually, we won't help everybody. In fact, we're going to go to war with the only other nation to have vibranium, and then dominate their king, forcing them to become a vassal, so that way we have claimed the right to vibranium, even if it lands outside of the continent of Africa, you are no longer allowed to use it, forcing the rest of the world to obviously seek out something better. Adamantium is going to be an important thing, and in fact, the entire UN should be involved. It's unclear what the US, Japan, France, and India are going to do with adamantium. They say that it helps with medical stuff, but they're just kind of going like, we saw in Black Panther that the metal healed people, so adamantium will heal people. But how do we know that adamantium will heal people? Will adamantium work the exact same as vibranium? Because vibranium seems to just do a whole bunch of different stuff. You can have vibranium in plants and animals. You can have vibranium underwater. You can have vibranium above ground. There are specifically 2 different plants that grow because of the vibranium that it touches the soil of. It can cure bullet wounds and repair spines. It can be used as a communicator. It can be used to turn off cars or remote control them. How exactly is adamantium going to do all of what vibranium does? But they skip over the research lab and it is never ever mentioned again. We never even get to see what the research lab actually is. We don't know where it is, what it's doing, who's inside of it, who's running it, who's been against it, who's funding it. We don't get to know any of it because suddenly Mr. Blue plays and then everyone goes insane. Isaiah goes insane because you saw the trailers and he tries to kill the president. And then it gets weird because it doesn't adequately show that other people have been mind controlled. So all of a sudden, other people are just being shot. Harrison Ross just punches a man walking up to him. I genuinely had no idea what was going on. Controversial lady just straight up shoots a man. All these other random agents are pulling their guns and shooting at each other. I'm genuinely confused because I have no idea what's going on. It's clear that it's intended to be that way, but it's actually too confusing. It's too confusing to the point that I was like, wait, what? Why are we just shooting everyone? Why is the president punching people? It didn't adequately show that the people in universe knew that they were being attacked by people. It just looked like in universe, controversial lady and the President Ross just started suddenly attacking US servicemen and killing them. It is intentional, but at a certain point you just go, oh, I guess there must be more mind-controlled people. And literally everyone knows it's mind-controlled because of course it's mind-controlled, but nobody says that it's mind-controlled. When people bring up that, hey, maybe these people were mind-controlled, the literal fucking Black Widow says there's no way that they could have been mind-controlled. I'm sorry, Black Widow. What were you before you joined the US government? Oh, that's right, a Black Widow. Were you one of the Black Widows who were just evil and just decided to serve Dreykov just because you really liked money? Is that what you were trying to say? Because that's not a good thing. But even still, you should be aware of how the other Black Widows were controlled. Because if you were one of the ones that wasn't being mind controlled, then you were one of the ones who were definitely aware of it. Isaiah goes on a rampage and shows why the super soldier serum really should be controlled. And then at some random point, he breaks out of his mind control and then ends up in front of a World War I monument that for some reason Marvel has CGI pasted half over. I don't know what the other half of it is supposed to be. It's hard to make out what it is that they've CGI pasted over the World War I memorial, but it doesn't even really make any sense. Personally, if you were going to go for the dramatic Isaiah being arrested in front of a soldier memorial, you should have made it the Korean War memorial. It would have at least made sense. But then we get to the funniest part of the movie, and it's the part of the movie that they want you to take so seriously. Sam talks Isaiah down and tells him, hey, if you start running off, people are going to kill you because you just shot at the President of the United States of America. And yes, you missed, but that is a bad thing in our country. And Isaiah is like, I can't go back to prison. I'm not going back. And then Sam is like, dude, you were mind controlled. You should probably just not. Isaiah, who was mind controlled, wakes up, realizes that he might be arrested, and decides he would rather die than be arrested for a crime that he didn't commit. But Sam tells him, please don't die, so Isaiah doesn't die. And then he is harshly arrested because he shot at President and is a super soldier who just flew a giant stone table at a bunch of Secret Service agents in full tactical gear, knocking them unconscious, breaking ribs, and causing serious internal damage. But they throw him to the ground too hard, and they commit the greatest crime you could ever do. They get the suit that Isaiah Bradley was married in dirty. Those monstrous police officers, those fiends, those bastards. The music swells and gets dramatic as the white cops take him away, and he says the best line the MCU has ever come up with. Watch my suit, please. Not my suit. I don't know. he's just lying there. Like when he's getting arrested, his suit gets lightly dirty because the Washington DC sidewalk is really filthy, and he's just on the floor just going, not my suit, not my suit. I was just laughing. I was laughing the whole time. And like, yeah, it's sad what happens in the real world, but come on. Isaiah's just on the floor just going, not my suit, don't mess up my suit. It's just like, I don't care about Isaiah. I don't care about Isaiah. He doesn't mean anything to me. He's not a Captain America. He's not even a character. He's just random character motivation to make Sam frustrated, to be like, I'm gonna be on the case to figure this out. As if like someone shooting Ross wouldn't have been enough motivation for Cap to be involved. They had to make it so that way Isaiah was one of the people that got brainwashed. And then, so Isaiah, they just arrest. They send directly into the heavy supermax super military prison. Who is his lawyer? I'm sorry, if you went on the news and you found out that the second ever Captain America tried to kill the President of the United States, you would think something was going wrong. Especially when it says in the Smithsonian, oh, by the way, he was held hostage by the US government for 30 years, where they experimented and tortured on him, and likely killed all of the other African American super soldiers that were working with him. By the way, do the other African American super soldiers that have super soldier serum in them count as other Captain Americas? Are they the Captain Americas? Or does that count only if you have someone from North, South, and Central America? Isaiah is pushed up to the point of having the death penalty, and he never gets to see a lawyer. No one ever really interrogates him. No one ever really just goes, hey, what happened? Cap is the only one that actually asks him. That's just because Controversial Lady just decides to look at the security camera footage before Cap gets the chance to look at the security camera footage. Isaiah gets arrested, and then Cap just walks into the super secret presidential high security bunker. Literally, the guard standing in front says, hey, you're not allowed to be in here. Cap pushes him aside. Then the man he pushes aside tries to close the door in order to ensure that Captain America can't leave after he kills the president. Why is the door to the presidential super secret bunker that you are putting him in after he has been assassinated not already closed? Why is the door not already closed? And then Sam is just walking. Not a single person is grabbing him, trying to stop him, blocking him, physically getting in his way. They are literally just walking behind him, using social distancing to ensure that they do not infringe on his personal bubble. And he grabs a random security card off the desk and swipes into the president's bunker office super secret area. A man just walks into the bunker because the door was left open. They close the door after he walks in. He grabs a card that lets you get into the president thing that's just laying on a table right next to some guy on a computer, swipes in, and just walks right up to the president to have an angry conversation with him. What is going on? I know it's America, but we do actually care about our presidents, at least security-wise. If Sam was mind-controlled, Ross would be dead, and it doesn't really make any difference. Why does Stearns want Ross to live? Stearns just wants to make Ross suffer as a human being so that way he'll end up in prison alongside Stearns. They end up in prison anyways, but it just doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. Nothing happens. Hulk Harrison just doesn't really do anything, you know? He gets into a fight with Cap and then he gets thrown in prison. Again, who's Harrison's lawyer? After breaking into the super secret, top secret, super presidential bunker, he says, put me on the case. Harrison Ford says, no, you're too close. And then Controversial Lady says, no, you're too close. That's weird. And then Sam is like, damn it, I'm gonna go do it anyways. And Harrison's like, oh, we better not let him do that. And they're like, yep, we better not let him do it. And they have the scene where Harrison says, you're not Steve Rogers. And everyone just goes, ooh, look at how evil he is. And then Sam steps outside and then Taylor just goes, oh, don't be that guy. And then Sam goes, I'm gonna be that guy. And then Sam leaves. And then Cap just gets to run his own investigation for a little bit because he goes to the prison, he interrogates Isaiah, he gets a full conversation. Guard at the prison is like, oh, I could get court-martialed for this, ignoring all the people that have let Cap into the prison in the beginning. So I guess, and it was actually a plot by Controversial Lady to make it so that Cap would show up and Isaiah would actually be able to talk, so it was her way of interrogating him. Isaiah seems pretty adamant about staying in prison despite clearly not wanting to be in prison. He doesn't want Sam to help him or help him get out, but he's very sad and upset that he's gonna die in prison. He seems to really just have given up. They do a weird camera zoom in on the two of them and they play dramatic music to make it seem like Isaiah is part of some grander conspiracy. But really he's not. He was just mind controlled. But the ex-Black Widow lady says that it's impossible for anyone else to ever been mind controlled ever in the history of ever. And the fact that the congressman once killed people for decades because he was mind controlled never really gets brought up. Controversial Lady looks at the security cameras and is the first one to find out there were bright lights that were mind controlling Isaiah. Ross calls the warden of Stearns' secret prison, and then the warden says, oh, he's totally still here. And then it's like, oh, actually, he's not here. Ooh, isn't it a shocking reveal? Because Stearns obviously mind controlled apparently everyone in the entire prison. God knows how long. Anyways, Cap is talking to Joaquin Phoenix on the phone, saying, oh, look, there's something going on with the bright lights. Joaquin Phoenix is solving crimes while drinking a possible Monster Energy or a Four Loko. It is unclear because they are not allowed to show the logo. Cap says, alright, call me back when you have more information. And then Giancarlo Esposito shoots up his car and blows him up. Giancarlo Esposito then just murders a police officer. It's never mentioned again. It's never brought up. Cap never even tries to protect him or keep him safe or look and see if the person was alive or call the hospital or anything of this sort. Giancarlo Esposito and Cap fight. They, for some reason, Cap doesn't have his shield on him at all times, despite that being a pretty easy way to have someone just steal the shield from his Captain America office. Giancarlo Esposito throws a knife into his chest and stabs him in the side of Tomahawk. Cap actively bleeds out to the point that he's got blood completely covering his hands. But don't worry, he's fine. They retconned a line in that says he was wearing Kevlar underneath. He refuses to go around with his Captain America shield, but he wears Kevlar everywhere he goes. Okay, sure. Strange that the Wakandans didn't give him a Wakandan suit he could wear underneath his outfit. He beats Giancarlo Esposito by happening to be right next to a scrapyard that happens to be on the outskirts of Washington, D.C., and pouring some bleach on a car battery, which causes it to turn into a gas cloud that makes a smoke screen, so it's hard for Giancarlo Esposito to shoot him. So he climbs up to a car. Cap throws the knife that was in his chest into Giancarlo Esposito's chest, happening not to hit the giant vest that Giancarlo Esposito is wearing. And then Sam drop kicks him and then punches him in the face. And when Sam is punching him in the face, you can clearly see the wound in his chest, and you can see that he is very clearly not wearing another layer. And then he answers calls where Stearns is like, haha, good job. And then we go back to the White House. France and India are deciding to leave the treaty. Japan has apparently already left. It's unclear why. No one really knows what's going on. They're just like, the president was almost shot. That means that we don't want to do anything with adamantium, which you think would mean like, no, we should probably really speed this up. We could use adamantium like security guards. We should have made that glass adamantium. It might have stopped the bullet from getting you, Mr. President. Ah, you're right. Okay, we need to speed it up. They essentially end by just saying, you need to bring Japan back to the table or else we will send our own independent military forces and take over the island that is the celestial giant corpse and mine out adamantium and use adamantium to make weapons and health stuff, but not share it with the United States or Japan. Just keep it slowly Paris and India. I do have to ask, what is Marvel's interest in making France one of the biggest superpowers? Wouldn't this be Britain or Germany or China or North Korea or Russia or Madagascar, South America, Central America, Canada? It's very weird to have Discount Modi and scarred up Frenchmen. Either way, India and France decide they will come back to the table if America is able to get Japan back to the table. And Harrison says, don't worry, we're the bestest of friends and he will come back because we are the bestest of friends and we are always nice to each other. Then Cap shows up at the Captain America office. Last you saw, he had been stabbed twice in the chest. But don't worry, at some random point, bandages were put on him and wrapped around him. When was he given medical service? Surely he needs more than just bandages. He probably needs surgery, doesn't he? Surely he needs stitches for those, right? Nope, just a bandage and some wraparound tape. And his wounds are never ever brought up again. Just give him a vibranium suit at this point. Captain America and Captain America's super office decides to pick out his brand new outfit because his old outfit was damaged because the entire outfit was not made of vibranium. And also because Anthony Mackie just really didn't like the headpiece, so they were like, okay, well, we'll just give him a different suit. Joaquin Phoenix says that he found out that controversial lady was a Black Widow and that Stearns called Sam from Stearns' weird secret lab thing, which is definitely a trap, but they've decided that they're just gonna go. Joaquin Phoenix says, oh man, but we should probably get food first, and Sam says, man, why did I even think about inviting you? And then the guard that said he was gonna get court-martialed for helping Captain America gets brainwashed and kills the other Secret Service agents who were mind-controlled. None of them were ever interviewed, interrogated, investigated by Captain America or controversial lady or president or Secret Agent Taylor or literally anyone ever, even though they would probably have the exact same reaction as Isaiah. Having 9 people in a row just go, hey, I looked at my phone and then the next thing I knew I woke up and suddenly I had been beaten up because I tried to kill the president of the United States of America. If 9 people did that, surely you'd think, maybe something is going on. Sure, they could all just be lying, but surely you would want to find a connection between all the military men and Isaiah. Isaiah is the one piece of the puzzle that stands out. Why would Isaiah be working with a group of military men who seem to be active servicemen, so they are current soldiers, men who would not have known anything about the 1950s or Isaiah being kidnapped by the president? If they were all African-American soldiers, not only would it fit the movie's theme a little bit better, which it tried to have, but then it deleted because Disney isn't allowed to be political, but it would also maybe make a little bit of sense. It would give a bit of a better motive instead of having it just be a massive diverse group of white guys and then the second ever Captain America of all time. Security guard that said he would be court-martialed for helping Captain America kills all of the men and then shoots himself before he can help Isaiah. This, however, does not make controversial lady think that perhaps brainwashing is happening, and everyone thinks Isaiah still deserves the death penalty despite not having a single visit from any lawyer, family members, or anyone who would remotely value him beyond Cap. We then cut to Air Force One, where Harrison Ford is sitting on a Peloton. Harrison Ford is working out really hard on a Peloton, and it's really funny, and it's really sad, and it makes me realize that the ads that I was seeing before were for a very important reason. This is honestly the only real funny part of the movie. It's funny because it's really sad seeing Harrison Ford in shorts trying to work on a Peloton. He's 90 years old, he really shouldn't be exercising. It's sad because I realized that they filmed this movie 3 times and they had to do things like get Pelotons and electric trucks into their movie in order to actually make it. And my mom was laughing at how absurd this whole thing was, and plus Harrison trying to work out but not really wanting to work out. It was a very relatable moment, at least. This is probably the most human moment I think any MCU character has ever shown. Someone sitting on a Peloton wanting to work out and then not really wanting to give the full effort workout, because working out is hard and nobody likes cardio. Agent Taylor tells him, oh, by the way, Captain America left like hours ago. And then Harrison's like, oh man, well we better go get them back. And then Agent Taylor's like, okay, I guess I'll send FBI agents. I'll tell your doctor that you cycled 3 miles. And Harrison's like, no, you'll say 5. And then she says, fine, 5. Joaquin Phoenix is then playing a weird Game Boy game on a flip phone and trying to say, oh man, it's so wild how you were able to play games on this phone, huh? Pointing out at how absurd the flip phone was as an ancient piece of technology. However, this ancient piece of technology that they are using because they are off the grid is also somehow connected to the internet and is able to receive and send a email transmission saying that Isaiah's prison was attacked, the other servicemen who were brainwashed were all killed, and Isaiah was okay. Somehow, this flip phone that they are using to get off of the grid of the US military is able to pick up very specific emails about Isaiah's current modern day imprisonment and let them know, despite the fact that they're heading into places that most likely won't have cell service. Sam decides that they can't turn around and check up on Isaiah because they have to go into the super secret military base and find out who's behind all of this. And then you realize that in Falcon and Winter Soldier, Sam couldn't afford to get a bank loan, yet he's driving around in an electric truck that has a front open trunk big enough to hold the Captain America shield and is worth more than my house. Stearns decides to kill the warden of his super secret hidden prison and call Ross to let him know that yes, it is him that is the one behind all of this. Stearns then says, how dare you not release me after I gave you pills that made it so that way you wouldn't be inclined to release me. And then Harrison says, oh, I had to do what I had to do, something, I don't know. None of these people make any sense and neither of it really feels like it makes much of a difference. It doesn't feel like any of it matters. And then Cap and Joaquin Phoenix show up at the super secret military base, and then I am flooded with Walking Dead flashbacks, and the entire time I'm looking at it I'm going, this reminds me very much of Walking Dead. And it turned out it was exactly like Walking Dead, because yes, it was a trap. Red Wing looped the footage outside so that way Joaquin Phoenix could run up to a power box to make it so that way the door could open, so that way they could go in and try to force the elevator door to open. And then they got inside the elevator and both the elevator door and the front door automatically closed, despite the front door not appearing to be some sort of automated door that would close on its own and also being forced open. And they do it just in time that within 1 to 2 seconds of them going into the elevator, the security guards walk by and just go, oh, I guess that metal clanging sounds that we just heard were probably just the elevator running, and just seem to make no care about it. And that is the only way into this prison. You go down an elevator and you are inside the prison. That is it. The side entrance to this radar facility appears to happen to be one of the only main ways into this prison, because there's an elevator that goes directly down into the super secret hidden prison, and there is no other layer of security once you get inside the super secret prison. As soon as you're inside the super secret prison, you're inside the hallways where there are no other prisoners apparently. They then walk up to a giant spooky metal door and Joaquin Phoenix immediately opens it. No one decides, hey, maybe we shouldn't open a gigantic spooky metal door without checking to see what's on the inside first. Hey, where's Red Wing? Maybe Red Wing should check to make sure that there's nobody on the inside. No, we're just gonna open this giant spooky door in a prison by a military general in the Marvel universe. There could be anything in there. It could be a super soldier. It could be a proper Hulk. It could be Abomination. It could be a proper She-Hulk. It could be an Iron Man. It could be Ultron. You have no idea what could be behind that door, and you just fling it open without even discussing it. They then walk in and realize that it's a massive lab, and they question, why does this super secret prison have a super secret lab deep inside? The main door to the jail cell then closes behind them, and they don't mention it at all. They seem uncaring. They decide to split up and look for clues. They are now sealed up inside of the super secret lab prison, inside the super secret space prison, and they just seem not to care. So they wander off and they go, oh hey look, it's Stearns. Here is his degree. Here is a DNA scan of his brain. Here is all the stuff that he scanned on Ross. Here is how he is mind controlling everyone. Here is literally all of the soldiers and people he is mind controlling, including Isaiah. Somehow He was able to get all of this access because he was somehow able to set it up so that he could mind control the warden of the prison and also all the other guards of the prison, so he could access other people's phones and cause them to get mind controlled. Somehow also knowing that Isaiah was one of the ones that he needed to work on. Cap then discovers that Ross was dying and Stearns had given a pill for him. It says he needs to take 3 pills a day and should not exceed. Cap then takes a small vial of pills that were apparently intended for Ross. Ross is then in Tokyo talking with the Japanese Prime Minister and trying to get him to come back and being like, come on, remember the old days. Oh, we gotta get this. We need this adamantium. We don't want to be a terrible isolationist country like Wakanda. And then Japan says, but actually you were the one who were stealing the adamantium from us. And then Ross is like, what are you talking about? Japan Prime Minister just goes, aha, a CIA black site was funding the people to steal this stuff from us. And then Ross is like, but then why would I send Captain America to steal the adamantium from myself when I just stole it from you? And then the Japan guy is like, see, but that's just why you're such a master political criminal. And then Ross gets angry and has to leave. Joaquin Phoenix says he has half of the genetic data on a lot of people. And then Captain America says, don't make me look up words, Joaquin. I didn't realize Captain America didn't know what genetic information meant. Surely Captain America went to college. Captain America was in the military. Captain America was probably a high-ranking official in the military. Captain America should know what genetic data means. Joaquin Phoenix reveals that he was able to mind control people, and then they decide to leave. But oh no, Stearns has been inside the prison cell the entire time. Stearns reveals his terrible CGI body, tells them his evil master plan, and then says, now anyways, I will stop you. He uses a sonic thing to keep Sam in place and then doesn't do anything like shoot him or stab him or have the guards show up or punch him or use his Hulk strength. It's unclear if the Gamma has given Stearns any Hulk-like strength. It seems to only have improved his intelligence, but made him green and also really messed up his head and his brain and his eye. Apparently Ross also injected him with even more Gamma over time, which yeah, maybe Ross should be held accountable for torturing Stearns, but still. Then get into a fight where they say, alright, mind control, try to go for takedowns only, and then they get really mad and upset at the mind controlled people and take them out hard. Then they attempt to leave out of their hallway. They encounter another group of mind-controlled guards, and then Controversial Lady comes in, and she says, I'm going to take them with me, but the mind-controlled people are mind-controlled, so then they try to attack her, so she automatically destroys an entire hallway full of goons, and then walks away with Captain America and Joaquin Phoenix. She walks outside of the military base with Captain America and Joaquin Phoenix, and then they are picked up by yet another group of guards. This time, it's the FBI agents that Agent Taylor sent to collect Captain America and Joaquin Phoenix, but then they are mind-controlled too.
That's not good. Lose this again, I'm keeping it.
They are mind-controlled after arresting Captain America and Joaquin Phoenix, putting them in cuffs. Within 2 seconds of the song Mr. Blue playing, Controversial Girl breaks Joaquin Phoenix and Captain America out of the shackles, and they go into yet another action scene where they have to escape from the mind-controlled FBI agents. We then see Harrison Ross talked to by random diplomat people who are saying we need a response now. India is moving their fleet, and Japan is moving their fleet, and France is moving their fleet. Oh, we need to move our fleet. And then Ross says, yes, we need to move the fleet, and everyone's like, oh, he's going aggressive. He gets really angry and breaks a stone bench with his bare fist, and nobody seems to notice or care, even though they show that Agent Taylor notices that that's what happens. Agent Taylor seems totally fine with him going to war with Japan, because Ross says, I was a wartime general, now I need to be a wartime president. I'm at war, damn it! I'm Harrison Ford, damn it! I have played presidents before. I'm a wartime president. He decides that, like, he was a wartime general, and then he's like, I'm a wartime president. And it's just like, but you're not at war. And it's just like, okay. And like, you're not allowed to declare war without Congress still. You're not allowed to just do whatever you want. Cap, Joaquin Phoenix, and Controversial Woman show up at random military base with Nice Military Man, whose brother is in the Air Force. They have decided to talk to Giancarlo Esposito and find a way to break the mind control so that way Stearns is no longer allowed to use the mind control, except for the fact that he's allowed to use the mind control after they say that they have just found a way to block him from using mind control. Controversial Woman asks how do we know that this place is secure, and Joaquin Phoenix plays the song that turns people into shooting monsters. None of them were ready for it. None of them had any of their gear on. If someone was mind-controlled, everyone likely would have been shot. But don't worry, it's played off as a joke. Giancarlo Esposito gets immunity for telling Captain America what's going on, what Ross has done, and what Stearns is doing. Meanwhile, Stearns shows up at some random admiral's house, shoots the admiral and his wife, and takes the admiral's phone so that way he can call Ross directly on his aircraft carrier when he and Japan start World War III. Ross goes to an aircraft carrier, sailing towards the giant celestial island. Captain America and Joaquin Phoenix somehow have enough jet fuel to fly from from Virginia all the way to the Indian Ocean and make it in time to be on Harrison Ross's aircraft carrier just in time for the Japanese fleet to show up. Captain America and Ross have a discussion where Ross reveals that he was dying and he needed the pills in order to survive, which meant that he wouldn't allow Stearns to go free because he needed Stearns to give him pills in order to survive, even though Stearns probably could have just fixed what he was doing in one go. It's unclear what the pills are, what the pills are doing, and what Ross is actually dying from, but these are all important things that have made him keep Stearns in prison, even though that's what Stearns saw was going to happen and knew that that was what was going to piss him off, even though he hoped Ross wouldn't do it and piss him off. Then two pilots get mind controlled because Joaquin Phoenix is bad at his job, and Harrison Ross has to send out Captain America and Joaquin Phoenix to take down the fighters. They don't take down the fighters, they try to talk to the Japanese fighters. They don't understand how to work together or how to work separate of each other. There are several points where I think it would be a better idea for one of them to do one thing, such as distracting the Japanese fighter while the other one takes out an American fighter, or vice versa, tag teaming, working as an actual team. No, it seems very disjointed. They seem to just kind of fly around and do whatever the plot needs them to do. It gets very confusing. Captain America decides to ride a missile like a surfboard and crash it into the ocean. Joaquin Phoenix doesn't decide to do this, even though both of them basically have the exact same gear. It's unclear if Captain America is actually faster than Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix is using Falcon's old gear that was damaged during his fight with Carly during Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which caused him to get vibranium wings. The vibranium wings, which will be destroyed, causing him to get, I guess, adamantium wings, since the Red Hulk destroyed them. Ross keeps trying to call Japan and saying, listen, our men have been brainwashed, but he doesn't really want to say it, and doesn't really want to say that it's by Stearns because he doesn't want to admit what he's been doing to Stearns. Japan gives him 3 seconds to give an explanation. Ross doesn't want to, so Japan says, fine, we will have a world war now. Because Cersei turned the giant man that was going to pop out of the earth and kill them all within an instant into stone, but somehow left enough adamantium inside to cause everyone to go to war with each other, even though the Eternals have spent millions of years not interfering with human conflicts, to the point that they have allowed World War I, World War II, Afghanistan, Iraq, Sokovia, Wakanda, slavery, Napoleon, all of it to happen. They are able to take out both of the American fighter jets, but Joaquin Phoenix gets too close to a missile and it blows up in his face. Despite the fact that Captain America has actively seen Rhodey fall out of the sky, the Falcon's wings do not have an emergency setup parachute. However, it has a random water flotation device that goes off when hit, because at one point he hits the water, it cuts away to Sam, Sam goes, oh no, he's been hit, cut to the aircraft carrier where they're saying, don't worry, we're sending medevac. Then it cuts back to Joaquin Phoenix, and he is wearing an emergency flotation device. It is unclear when this emergency flotation device went off. Did it go off on impact? Did it go off beforehand? But nonetheless, Joaquin Phoenix has been kicked out of the movie, and nobody really cares, because all it means is that we've lost boring jokes and the tech guy. So now Captain America does not have his tech guy. Nonetheless, Japan sees that Captain America is taking out both American fighters, meaning that America is not trying to start a war with Japan. So Japan stands down, despite firing multiple missiles and blowing up several US Navy ships. Several ships were hit by missiles. It is unclear how many servicemen were actually killed. It was probably too many. They then decide to recreate Nick Fury's hospital scene from Captain America the Winter Soldier, except this time it's just Cap, all by himself. He has no friends, no one else with him. He doesn't call anyone, but then, don't worry, Congressman Bucky Barnes shows up. I have no idea why he's a congressman. Does that mean Thunderbolts is all about Congressman Bucky trying to run a super soldier team? How is he gonna run Congress and a super soldier team at the exact same time? Why is he fighting Sentry if he's running for Congress? Why do they have it that Ross tries to have Captain America start the Avengers, and then in the Thunderbolts trailer have Vicky say that the Avengers are not coming, when at the end of this movie Captain America says that he's going to restart the Avengers? Whoever the heck is in charge of the Avengers PR team, you need to do your work more. Sam hears someone come into the room and says, it's a private room, get out, but doesn't bother to look or move or get angry or say anything when he hears that the person moves closer and is standing right next to him. But don't worry, it's Congressman Bucky. They have one of the 4 most serious and honestly kind of the best scenes in the entire movie. The first scene being Isaiah breaking down in prison, talking about how he's gonna die in there. It's genuinely just really good acting from Isaiah's actor. Even though I don't care about the character, it's really good acting. The next scene is Ross breaking down and admitting that he's going to die and that he needed to keep Stearns in order to keep himself alive so that way he could make Betty see that he was changing to be a better man, even though he was still doing bad things in order to prove to others that he wanted to change and be a better person. And then the next scene, which is Sam and Bucky talking about failing Joaquin Phoenix. And then the last scene, the last actual good scene, is Ross and Sam talking to each other in prison. These aren't really good scenes. They're not even great, but they're the best parts of the movie because it's at least people trying and it's not a super ADR nightmare. Nonetheless, Captain America is finally allowed to actually have a character moment. This entire time, he hasn't really had any sort of character moment. He's had a little bit of hesitation in forming the Avengers because he would work for Ross, but we've never really had any time to actually explore what any of that meant. He had a conversation with Ross, which was mostly just him asking questions. He talked with Stearns, which was mostly just him trying to figure out what was going on. He doesn't really have a character moment until nearly 30 minutes until the movie's over. Sam says that Joaquin Phoenix actually had to have his heart restarted and that he might die. Bucky says that it isn't his fault. Sam says he's thinking of Steve again. He comments about how Steve stopped several alien invasions, and he forgets the fact that he was there for one of the alien invasions. In fact, he fought alongside Captain America for technically 2 alien invasions. Sam fought in Wakanda with Steve, and then Sam fought in Endgame against Thanos in New York. So Sam has also stopped 2 alien invasions. Because don't forget, Thanos' army is technically different. Steve has fought 3 alien invasions, Sam has fought 2. But nobody has actually watched the MCU, so they actually say Steve has fought 2 alien invasions, and they forget that Sam was actually there for that other alien invasion. Sam says, "What made me think I could follow that?" Forgetting again that he was there for the last alien invasion and personally fought Thanos himself. Sam says that he should have taken the serum like Steve and Bucky, the serum from the show that no one had ever seen, and then Bucky asks him why he didn't take the serum, even though he was there and Sam explicitly told him why he didn't take the serum. So Sam says that he needs the super soldier serum because now it's starting to feel a whole lot bigger than him. Now, the giant robot invasion that almost sent an entire country crashing into the earth, that wasn't bigger than him. The Mad Titan that ran around the entire galaxy collecting Infinity Stones, snapping half of all life out of existence, including yourself, that wasn't bigger than you? Coming back, having to fight that exact same Titan in a younger, better form, to fighting for the very fate of the entire universe because Thanos was gonna destroy everything? That wasn't bigger than you. Coming back and then having to work with the Repatriation Council, fight a terrorist that you can't call a terrorist, and discover why you should be Captain America without the super soldier serum. That wasn't bigger than you? The entire universe is not bigger than you. Now it is getting bigger than you because America and Japan went to war over a giant man sticking out of the planet that was turned to stone, but actually not stone, because some green man is organizing all of this because he's really upset at Ross and he wants to make Ross feel bad, so he's trying to start a war between everyone because he's the smartest man on Earth and he's also a supervillain. He says that Ross asked him to restart the Avengers, which apparently is still a bad thing. He says that Joaquin Phoenix is in the hospital and Isaiah is in prison because nobody has let him out yet because they haven't gone, "Hey, we almost went to war because 2 of our pilots were mind controlled. Maybe that means Isaiah was mind controlled?" Nope, Isaiah for some reason is still facing the death penalty. And then Sam says, "Aw man, I let Stearns get away." And it's like, well yeah, because you rushed at him instead of just throwing his shield, which is the main thing that you do. Honestly, if Sam had just thrown the shield, it would have gotten hit by the sonic ray that was the trap set up by Stearns, and then Sam could have just walked around the trap and punched Stearns. Stearns doesn't seem to have any Hulk strength, so he could have just been tackled by Joaquin, but Joaquin Phoenix didn't do anything. Sam was trapped because Stearns pushed a button causing a sonic thing to hit him, so Sam had to use his shield to hold it up so that way the sonic beam wouldn't crush him, even though he's just a normal guy without any super soldier serum. Joaquin stood by and didn't go around the little circle to attack Stearns or turn the device off in any way. Sam and Joaquin allowed Stearns to just walk out. It has nothing to do with using the super soldier serum or not. Black Widow would have just gone around the beam and knocked him out. Black Widow would have just shot him with her taser. Black Widow would have gone around and shot him with his taser. Would have gone around, leapt on his head and elbowed him until he passed out, turned the beam off, and then arrested him. Which she did. Black Widow is the one who actually arrested Stearns and took him to the raft in the first place, but then they took him out of the raft and put him in a different super secret prison area, even though Ross says, "I actually tried to get him moved." You did move him. You moved him from the raft to his other super secret prison area because Black Widow showed up and arrested him the first time.
You should have gone for the head.
Sam says that Stearns pushed them to the brink of war because he wasn't like Steve, which makes no sense because none of this really has anything to do with Captain America. Captain America is just kind of here. In fact, Stearns viewed him as just an external output that needed to be taken care of so that he wouldn't surprise him, because Stearns, despite being the smartest man in the universe, doesn't know what Captain America could do next. They make Bucky have a therapy line where he's like, "You say what you need to say." Sam says that Steve made a mistake, which was the exact plot of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then Buck tells him no, he didn't make a mistake. mistake, which is what he said in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then they actually have a good speech where Bucky tries to say, no, he didn't make a good mistake. You are here to give us something to aspire to. And I was sitting there in the movie theaters and I thought to myself, what has Anthony Mackie's Captain America done? He has actively supported terrorism, even though he kind of stopped it, but not really. Someone else actually had to stop terrorists, so he didn't stop terrorists. He told people that had no idea what the heck they were doing, that they needed to do better, and then just left without helping them fix the world in any way whatsoever. Take out Batroc twice. Take out Giancarlo Esposito because the president asked. Got asked to reform the Avengers and said no because he didn't want to work for America, because Captain America should not work for the United States president, as you know, and then has been involved in this situation. Sam hasn't done anything to earn our aspirations. Sam is nothing to aspire to. He hasn't done anything. He supported terrorists, told people to do better, beat up a few criminals who mostly just got away, and then got involved in this whole fiasco with the president, which he makes seem like it's on him, but really he has nothing to do with it. He's just kind of someone who's reacting to stuff. Because other people are being dragged into a plot between Stearns and Ross, and Cap is just there. He hasn't done anything aspirational. He doesn't even want to reform the Avengers. He doesn't want to protect the world or work for America because he just doesn't like it. Because black people. Which is just frustrating. Go be Captain Wakanda then. You literally have vibranium wings. Just go be Captain Wakanda if you don't think Captain America should work for America. Go reform the Avengers underneath the Wakandans. Go to Shuri and say, hey, can we reform the new Avengers? We will have our base set up here. We will use Wakandan Quinjets to fly around the world, and we will save people however we want. Whenever an alien invasion happens, maybe we'll work with SWORD if they haven't been eaten by cats again. Like, just go to Wakanda then. You don't have to be in America anymore. Just come back to Louisiana to say hi to your sister. Bucky's apparently a congressman, so if anything American happens, just have Bucky deal with it. Bucky then says that just because you think that if you had the serum you could protect everyone you cared about, you would. But Steve wasn't able to protect everyone. And it's like, yeah, because they were snapped away in half by a giant infinity gauntlet. Technically, Steve also did, because he actually brought everyone back and was able to live a happy life with Peggy. So actually he did. Actually, he literally did. He brought back his best friend, who was deprogrammed, and so wasn't evil anymore, and then got to live the rest of his life with the best girl of his dreams. He literally had the super soldier serum and was able to protect everyone that he loved. It's absolute bullshit. Bucky then says super emotionally, you're a human being and you're doing your best. Honestly, he has so much energy. Steve gave something to believe in, but you give them something to aspire to. And then Sam just gives them a weird look. And then they end it with a joke, which is just terrible. And it just breaks the tension of the whole scene. And I'm like, Joaquin Phoenix is dying. They literally restarted his heart. Dying. Why have you done this? It was fine that this scene started with a joke, but the fact that it ended with a joke was a bad idea. The joke just undercuts everything that they had going for it. It was the only actual scene that was actually building anything up, and they had to undercut it because of stupid Marvel humor. Bucky also looks really, really old. Sebastian Stan is not holding up as well as they want you to think. And then Bucky says, I love you, touches him, and then leaves, and is never seen again. This is the only scene that Bucky is in. Controversial woman then walks in holding 2 totally real coffees, and then remarks that she would totally have sex with Buck if he would let her, which is very weird and kind of a strange objectification of Bucky, but okay. For some reason, Isaiah is still having the death penalty, which makes Cap very upset, so he abandons Joaquin Phoenix to the surgery, and we never see Joaquin Phoenix again until after the surgery. Nice military man whose brother joined the Air Force because of Captain America gets called by his friend who happens to be the scientist person to do the investigation that finds out that the pills that Ross is eating are filled with gamma and turning him into a Hulk. So then he hangs up and then has to leave the base in order to call Captain America, but oh no, he walked up the hill and Stearns is standing right there with a device that causes his heart to explode, and they killed nice military man before he could call Captain America and warn him that Ross was taking gamma-infused pills that were turning him into a Hulk. And then Stearns goes all the way back to Washington, D.C. in order to mess with Ross and turn him into a Hulk, because he tried to turn him into a Hulk during the whole fleet battle, but Ross refused because Captain America was able to destroy the planes in time. And Taylor comes in and says, hey, Captain America blew up the planes. And then Ross calms down, and then Agent Taylor is like, hey, by the way, what's wrong with your pants? Why are there massive holes in this ship that look exactly like footprints? Who crushed all these steel pipes? Surely someone would have noticed what happened to the aircraft carrier. Why does Taylor notice all of these things and do absolutely nothing? She doesn't tell anyone about any of the things that she noticed, despite being Captain America's inside person whose specific job it is to tell people what's going on with the president in case something goes wrong. Ross sits in the Oval Office and then gets sad about Betty, so he calls Betty and asks if they can hang out again sometime. Betty says, yeah, that's fine. And then he's like, alright, sweet. And then he goes off to do his interview. interview. At the same time, Captain America has just left the hospital because he is upset that Isaiah is about to get the death penalty for almost killing the president, even though we have proven without the shadow of a doubt that people are mind controlled, to the point that even President Ross knows that people are being mind controlled, so surely he should immediately have just gone, hey, Isaiah's probably been mind controlled, we should probably just let him go. Anyways, Stearns walks over after having just killed the nice man whose brother joined the Air Force because of Captain America, and then Stearns just turns himself in and says, aha, but actually I'm going to win because I'm going to turn Ross into a Hulk. And then Cap is like, no, I don't believe you. And then Stearns is like, oh, really? And then Ross is giving his speech about how he's kind of won and that he's going to use adamantium around the world and they won't be like Wakanda. They will be better than Wakanda. At last, America will be a true people, spreading joy and happiness around the world, making lives better for everyone so that we can fight against the alien threat and figure out just what the heck is going on with the MCU. But oh no, Stearns has been arrested, and at the exact same time that he was arrested, he scheduled a news article to come out that would release during the press conference telling everyone everything that Ross had done to Stearns. There is no reason for Stearns to have arrested himself. Stearns could have just released the news article and just been free. The news people simply say, Stearns is arrested and he said that you were very mean to him that one time. And then Ross is like, no, they found it out. And then Stearns plays the phone call that he had on Air Force One with President Ross, where Ross says, yeah, I did all these bad things, but I don't care. I needed it to be the president. And then the news reporters talk to him and he gets very upset. And then Ross becomes so incredibly upset and all the security people are tackling him and he's struggling to get to the podium. He's like, no, I need to tell the people the truth. They need to know. I need to make everyone know. He's very upset. Betty, no. And then all of a sudden he begins to grow in size. He breaks through his clothes and he begins to turn red and he grows in size and he turns into the Red Hulk, which is probably the only good CGI in the entire movie. Stearns is kind of okay, but his design is terrible. So, okay, the President of the United States of America is turning into a giant Red Hulk. What do you think Secret Service should be doing? Well, apparently if you're Marvel Cinematic Secret Service agents, you pull out your gun and you point it at the President of the United States of America. You look over to Agent Taylor, and then you ask, what do you do? And then Agent Taylor just says, whatever. And you open fire with your pistols on the President of the United States of the America. First of all, you're shooting the President of the United States of the America. Why? Second of all, the Secret Service is shooting the President of the United States of America. Okay. Third of all of you should know what a Hulk is. You should know at this point, a 9mm gun is going to do nothing against MCU characters. It barely does anything against default goons in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What is it going to do to a Hulk? I just don't understand why Secret Service decides to shoot the President of the United States, decides to go into a gunfight with the Hulk, and decides not to get people out of the way before opening fire on the President of the United States. But they decide to shoot the Hulk, which makes him angry, so he starts attacking the Secret Service agents. And then it just goes wrong. And then Captain America shows up to try to calm him down, but Captain America ends up fighting him. Hulk, Ross, and Captain America fight, blowing up half of the entire White House, and then they send in giant unmanned helicopters to just try to gun down the President of the United States of America, and the helicopters blow up the White House. So everyone inside the White House, the staffers, the kitchen people, the security agents, the press people, friends, family, tourists, cleaning people, all of those people are just dead. The White House has exploded and multiple helicopters have crashed into it. It is a complete massacre. Hundreds of people are dead. And then Cap at least kind of tries to lead the Hulk. He tries to lead the Red Hulk both away from people and I think into an area that will make him calm down, but it's unclear if that was his intention or if he just happened to be next to the cherry blossoms that Ross said were very important to him and Liv Tyler. During his chase, Captain America flies by the Washington Monument, which had just been repaired from the Spider-Man movie, and the Red Hulk crashes into the Washington Monument, pieces of it falling onto the citizens below, crushing them to death. And Damage Control now looks at Spider-Man and looks at Red Hulk and decides, are the two of them working together? What is it about the Washington Monument? Perhaps we need to add more security to the Washington Monument. Captain America then decides to fly through a forest, which is not a very advantageous place to go when you can fly. He flies through the trees when the Hulk is chasing him, even though he could just fly up into the air at any point. During the battle, the Hulk is able to ground Captain America, but it's revealed that vibranium can cut through the Hulk, and I am very upset. Vibranium can cut through the Hulk. Vibranium can kill the Hulk. Adamantium can beat vibranium. Adamantium can beat the Hulk. If you get an adamantium bullet, you can shoot through Captain America's shield. You can shoot through Captain America's wings. You can shoot through the Black Panther costume. You can shoot through a Hulk. You can shoot through the Vision. You can shoot through a space station. Adamantium is now the most important weapon ever existed. If anyone makes an adamantium bullet, they are the most powerful being in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Captain America decides to just fling more and more pieces of metal into the Hulk, and so there are multiple points during which the Red Hulk is impaled by Captain America, and you just kind of wonder, wow, it's a good thing this vibranium doesn't accidentally slice through his heart and kill him. Good thing Cap just knows what he's doing, I guess. By the way, Captain America has been killing people people throughout this entire movie. Let's just remember that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it was wrong when Captain America killed people. By the way, John Walker is more of a Captain America than Sam is because he has super soldier serums, so that means he still counts as a Captain America. Despite it being heavily set up that Betty would show up and be the reason that Ross turns back to a normal Hulk, it's not. Cap just decides to go into the reshoot dimension, and it looks awful, and then he decides to talk Ross out of being the Hulk, and then he just stops because a cherry blossom had touched his body and burnt up on impact. Sam's vibranium wings get destroyed. He makes a joke that I kinda laughed at, where he says, "Bucky is full of shit, I should have taken that damn serum." I don't know, I kinda liked it. Ross just kinda decides to stop being the Hulk because he was told to stop being the Hulk because Captain America decided to talk to him after going into the terrible reshoot dimension. Isaiah is freed from prison because everyone was like, oh yeah, mind control is a thing. Controversial woman shows up with his suit all freshly cleaned, and Isaiah goes, oh my god, maybe America isn't so bad after all. And Ross is sent into the raft for some reason. Because if Abomination is able to get out on parole and he wasn't even put in the raft, then surely Ross, who is actually like in a normal Hulk form and has probably Bruce Banner as someone you could bring to the witness stand to explain what it's like when you have actual Hulk rage problems. By the way, wait a minute. Oh no, crap, this is not good. Okay, we need to talk about this then. Okay, so Abomination is not a split personality from the Man Before the Monster. Jennifer Walters and She-Hulk are the exact same person. Bruce Banner and the Hulk were different personalities. Eventually, they began to merge together. They formed together into Super Smart Hulk, and at a point, the Hulk and Bruce were completely separate identities. Now, Ross and Red Hulk apparently are alternate identities. This Ross Red Hulk is a lot like the 2008 Hulk, where when Ross transforms into the Red Hulk, it is a Hulk. It is not Ross in control of anything. You have to break through to Ross in order to regain control, just like they did with Bruce. Now, why is Ross in the raft? He didn't kill anyone. If he did, it wasn't him, it was the Red Hulk. Any of his actual crimes that he committed with Stearns or anything like that would not put him in the raft. Worst case, he would go into the same prison as Abomination, which appears to be at least some sort of a lower tier security than the raft. It makes no sense why Ross is in the raft. You do not send the President of the United States of America to the raft, especially when the crimes he have committed were created by an alternate personality Hulk monster, and the only actual crimes he committed put him in normal jail, or whatever the president. Is the president in this universe even able to be subject to crimes? The last president shot one of his secretaries of state because it was a Skrull, and then declared war on all aliens. What does it mean to be a president in this universe? Nonetheless, Ross's deal goes through, and the world is given adamantium. Now, Wakanda no longer is the only dominant force with super advanced technology. The entire world will be split between vibranium and adamantium. Either you go with America, you become super invincible, or you go with Wakanda, and you might possibly get their support, but only if it comes in the hands of a Wakandan themselves. The Americans will just give it to whoever they want. The Wakandans will only give it to Wakandans. They won't allow anyone to immigrate into their place, so only natural-born Wakandans will be able to use Wakandan tech. So the world would choose adamantium, and Killmonger's dream will die, and Black Panther's dream will die, and Shuri's dream will die. Somewhere deep inside a deep aquatic cave, Namor is just cackling to himself. After fighting a Hulk, Sam comes out of it with a lightly damaged arm. Sam seems to be more invincible in this than Captain America was in any of the other actual movies. We also find out in this raft sequence that vibranium can apparently cut not only the Hulk personality, but the person itself. This is an interesting idea, and I don't think has happened before, at least in the MCU, where when Bruce transforms from the Hulk back to Bruce Banner, he doesn't have any of the injuries that the Hulk had. In Incredible Hulk, the Hulk got a cut because he was holding a helicopter, but when he reverted back to Bruce Banner didn't have a cut on his hand. But for some reason, vibranium cutting up the Hulk's face leaves cuts on General Ross's face. So Ross could die if someone stabs him with vibranium. So vibranium can do damage not only to the Hulk, but to the person behind it. So if you damage a Hulk enough with vibranium, even if they revert back to a normal person, they will still have a ton of injuries. This makes vibranium incredibly dangerous to the Hulk. It's honestly probably a good thing that Bruce is no longer allowed to be part of this universe. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, I've completely forgotten that there's Scar. I completely forgot about Scar. Oh my god. Does anyone even know that Scar exists? Ross, are you even aware that the Hulk has a son that he's just brought from outer space? What are we gonna do with Scar? Like, what is Scar? Like, is Scar... So by the way, Scar can be killed with vibranium then. Scar can be killed with adamantium then. Oh my god, we have Scar as well. Jesus Christ. And what happens if Daredevil gets She-Hulk pregnant? Are we gonna have another Gamma child? Why are there so many Hulklings around the place? This movie is so full of exposition, it's very strange. They try to make it a highlight by saying this is Ross taking full responsibility for his actions, but the prison system in the MCU just feels unfair. At this point, I don't even think we should have lawyer shows. It would just be them trying to figure out what the MCU has been doing overall. Anyways, Sam shows that he's a real nice person by bringing Betty into the raft to have a conversation conversation with Ross. They never have a conversation. They never have anything real or meaningful. Bruce is never really mentioned beyond Ross talking about that being the reason that Betty doesn't like him anymore. Stearns never really talks about Bruce or Jen or Abomination or Scar or anyone else. And then Sam goes to the hospital to visit Isaiah and be like, hey, you know, you're welcome for getting you out. And then Isaiah decides to be rude to him and pull a mean face where he's like, say that again. And then he's like, nah, I'm just kidding with you. Isaiah decides to be a jerk to the man that freed him from prison. And then Sam has a conversation with Joaquin Phoenix. The comedy in this movie just doesn't work. Then again, it was kind of nice seeing Sam say, the Falcon awakens, as Joaquin Phoenix woke up. Joaquin Phoenix then apologizes for screwing up because he took a missile to the face because he was stupid and didn't hold back when Cap told him to hold back. Joaquin Phoenix then says that Sam was never shot out of the sky. Sam doesn't say anything about his partner, who was literally shot out of the sky, or his premiere in Winter Soldier, when he was literally shot out of the sky. Or Infinity War, when he was literally shot out of the sky. Joaquin then says Sam has always been on point. Sam says that if he's not on point. So he decides to use two different metaphors. So this is what Captain America says. This is the only other speech that Captain America actually gives in this movie. Because if I'm not on point, I feel like I let down everyone else who's fighting for a seat at that table. If he's not on point, he's let everyone who's trying to fight for a seat at that table. I don't know what he's talking about. This is from a different version of the movie where race was actually an important thing. He's trying to explain why he needs to be Captain America now, but I have no idea what he's talking about. He doesn't want to make the Avengers. He's not doing anything for diverse people. He wanted to just give up again after Joaquin got blown up. He wanted to give up because he said Steve made a mistake. He went from Steve made a mistake to I need to be on point because if I'm not on point, I feel like I let down everyone else who's trying to get a seat at that table. What are you talking about? The MCU is more diverse than it has ever been. You have Kamala, you have Black Magic Lady, you have Captain Marvel, you have the Skrulls, you have Valkyrie, you have Joaquin Phoenix, you have the second ever Captain America, you know, you have Jen, you have Jen's assistant lady. Like, it's just, shut up, Captain America. What are you even talking about? This entire movie has had nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with anything. It hasn't even had anything to do with you. This has been about Stearns and Ross. You have had nothing to do with this. You only got involved because Isaiah was involved. Honestly, if some random person tried to kill Ross, you probably wouldn't have cared. You probably would have just been like, no, we gotta leave them to run their investigation. Huh, that's really strange. Well, we're here if you need any help. The only reason you got involved was because Isaiah happened to be one of the people that Stearns chose to get mind controlled. And that was only because Stearns wanted to get you off the board because he didn't know what you were going to do, because he didn't know how to control you, because it wasn't about you, because it was about Stearns and Ross. He didn't care about you. He didn't make any plans or strategies or any real way to deal with you. He tried to hire Giancarlo Esposito to fight you, and then that failed. So he used a sonic beam and that failed, and then he hired some guards and then he was like, this isn't gonna stop you, but it'll at least delay you so that way I can do my plan. He didn't even care about killing you. He just wanted to delay you so that way he could turn Ross into the Hulk. This movie about Captain America has nothing to do with Captain America. And like, Captain America's breaking into tears over this, and Joaquin Phoenix is breaking into tears over this. And then Sam says it's a lot of pressure. It weighs on you. Makes you wonder if you'll ever just be. It's a well-acted scene. It's just that I just don't care. But like, he says, I feel like I'm letting down everyone else who's fighting for a seat at that table. But like, Wakanda, Black Panther, you know, Heimdall, you know, like, Rhodey, like, War Machine, Iron Patriot, I don't, why did they end it with Captain America going, I need to be Captain America for diversity? Not because it's what I feel like I need to do, not because it's what Steve wanted me to do, not because Steve inspired me to do this, not because Joaquin inspires me to do this, because I need to be on point or else no other black people are allowed at the table. Nick Fury created the Avengers. Like, Nick Fury created the Avengers. Sam Wilson refuses to create the Avengers. What is the difference here? Nick Fury went up to Iron Man and was like, hey, we could use the Avengers. Sam Wilson is like, oh, I don't know about making the Avengers. I don't know if we should work for someone. Nick Fury is like, we're gonna work for the World Council, you know, which kind of might suck, but hey, you know, we gotta do what we can in order to keep the world safe. Sam is like, I'll work for America, but only after Ross is in prison. He says that it's a lot of pressure being Captain America, but he hasn't done anything. And then Joaquin Phoenix, as he cries, admits that he was inspired by Captain America to be Falcon. Where I grew up, I only ever got to see heroes on the TV. They always felt so far away. I kept thinking, maybe if I got out of Miami, maybe one day I could be. They make a joke about Ant-Man. He says he wanted to be Falcon when he grew up. I have no idea why he's inspired by Falcon. Falcon's not really a well-known hero. He had basically a limited appearance in Winter Soldier, didn't do anything in Avengers 2, and then showed up in Civil War where he broke the law. I don't know why Joaquin Phoenix was inspired to be like the guy who went against the government and betrayed everyone, because he was protecting a man who assassinated the president of Wakanda Wakanda. Again, Joaquin Phoenix showed up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier as just some army guy, and it just kind of felt arbitrary that they gave him the wings. They just kind of were like, you just seem like a nice person, here, have Falcon's wings, they're damaged anyways. And then he just became Falcon. There wasn't really any reason behind it. And even this, by the way, last 4 minutes of the movie, and we finally find out why Joaquin Phoenix wants to be Falcon. He has been in this and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He has been on screen for hours, and the last 4 minutes of his second ever appearance is when we get to finally find out his motivation, which apparently is that he wanted to be like Falcon when he grew up. Joaquin Phoenix then says he's ready for the responsibility of being Captain America's partner as they reform the Avengers. And then Sam tells him about his super special secret kick, which was a total setup at the beginning of the movie and totally shows how much of a partner these two are. They feel less like a partnership than Sam and Steve did in Winter Soldier. Like, Natasha and Steve are more of a partnership than these two. These two have no chemistry of any kind whatsoever. They don't feel like real people. And then Sam says, alright, I'll make the Avengers again. We've gone through 2 entire phases, and only now, finally, does someone just go, hey, maybe we should bring back the Avengers. The movie then ends with Joaquin Phoenix asking Sam, hey, why don't I get vibranium wings too? And then Sam is like, no, vibranium wings are terrible. Only I can have vibranium wings, which also can be destroyed by a Hulk. Yeah, Sam's vibranium wings got ripped up by the Hulk, so I guess he's gonna have adamantium wings the next time. By the way, Sam and Joaquin joke about Joaquin getting vibranium wings, even though if Joaquin was wearing vibranium, he would have actually been able to survive the missile impact and wouldn't be scarred and lying in a hospital wing. So it's unclear why Sam and Joaquin are joking about vibranium. And then Kendrick Lamar plays. Apparently Kendrick Lamar is the biggest MCU character since Thanos. I want you to know that the last line said before the post-credits scene in Sam Wilson's Captain America is, they will hook me up, man. That is how the movie ends, with Joaquin Phoenix and Captain America doing character bondings about getting a hookup from the Wakandans.
You're going after him.
You don't have to come with me.
I know. When do we start?
If you need us. If you need me. I'll be there.
You gonna be okay? Yeah. Yeah, I had a date.
You're gonna ask the Wakandans for a hookup.
Yeah.
That is the most Miami thing in the
Are you kidding? They gonna hook me up, man.
So I promise this.
And then there's a post-credits scene where Sam visits Stearns in prison, and Stearns goes, hey, there's the multiverse. And then Cap's like, alright, neat. And then the movie ends. And then you leave the movie theater, and then you stand in the parking lot, and you wonder what the whole point of this was. And then you just go, alright, well, I guess Daredevil's in March. Overall, this really does just feel like a nothing movie. There's no themes, no characters, nothing memorable or fun. The Red Hulk has a good design, but that's about it. Like, that's really all I could say. Liv Tyler looks terrible. Harrison Ford spent more time in this movie in a booth than he did on screen. Captain America isn't even a character. Isaiah's just there to try to tug at your heartstrings and be like, oh, Black Lives Matter. If Joaquin Phoenix died in this movie, I honestly don't think I would have cared. I would have just been like, oh, okay. Bucky was just in this movie for one scene. Controversial Woman was in this movie for just a little bit, and she really did not matter. And then Stearns honestly just felt like he could have just done all of this and just escaped and just have been gone the entire time, which honestly might have been actually more of an interesting idea. Like, what if Stearns just implemented a plan and then just left and there was no way they could track him down because, like, he was like using sword and opening one of the portals and went off into space or something. Like, he actually just escaped, and this is just Captain America trying to deal with the consequences of Stearns' actions. Something interesting like that, instead of Stearns just meeting them in the prison and then just going, here's my evil plan. Cap tries to stop him, and then he just leaves, and then he does the evil plan. But then Harrison Ford doesn't turn evil because Captain America is able to stop the planes just in time before Harrison gets too angry about Stearns yelling at him, even though Ross really should have just taken the headphones off instead of letting Stearns turn him evil, you know, just saying. But whatever. Honestly, this movie just means nothing. It's just nothing. It's a nothing thing. I don't think that it's even worth talking about. You know, I made this video because I want to try just doing my video review stuff, but overall, I don't care about this movie. I don't think I'll ever watch this movie again outside of reviews. And like, this movie isn't gonna matter. Nobody's gonna be watching Doomsday or Secret Wars and just going, oh wow, I'm really glad we watched Captain America Brave New World, so that way this plot thread from Captain America Brave New World could carry over into Marvel's Avengers Doomsday. Like, I just don't care. Giancarlo Esposito is just there to speak Spanish and be Breaking Bad. Joaquin Phoenix is there to be a tech guy and then get blown up. Bucky is just there. Controversial Girl is just there. Isaiah is just there, and he gets arrested in front of a World War I memorial that they had to CGI up. Why did they CGI up the World War I memorial? How many scenes does Nice Soldier have? He shows up at the end to say, damn, leave some for the rest of us, Cap. They have a conversation before he takes the adamantium. Okay, so they meet Soldier Man again when they leave Stearns' base. They for some reason just break Stearns' hypnosis, and then he has a guy that's going to look into the pills that are turning Ross into the Hulk. And that's basically his thing. And then he gives Cap time to talk to Giancarlo Esposito, who for some reason is just in Virginia. Thank God he was in Virginia at the time. And then he dies. Because his friend calls him instead of calling Captain America, because he decides not to give his friend Captain America's number and just be like, listen, whatever you find, you need to tell Captain America immediately. Here is his personal hotline phone thing that you need to call. No, he's like, as soon as you find it out, call me, and then I will call Captain America. And hopefully I won't be killed when I push the hang up button, walk 5 feet to push the redial button, and call Captain America. I don't know why I have to move in order to call Captain America when I just got off the phone talking with you. So 1, 2, 3, at most he gets 4. Okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm doing it. We're doing a scene count. Scene count for everyone. All right, we have Ross. Very opening scene where he gets elected. Grave scene. Meeting Sam for the first time in the White House. Revealing what adamantium is. And then I guess all the action stuff. Talking to Sam in the White House bunker. Talking to France and India. I may miss a scene. Being on Air Force One. And then getting the call from Stearns. Which I don't know. Does that count as a different scene? I think okay, I'll count it as a different scene because they cut to Sam in between. So that's 7. 8 because he meets the Japanese minister. 9 when he meets the minister people who are like, oh, we need to make a response. Quick, go to war. And he's like, oh, I guess I'll go to war. Then him on the aircraft carrier. I think that's 9. Telling Sam that he was dying. That's 10. Action scene. 11. Getting the phone call. Which is 12. I don't know if you want to count. Let's just say in general, like 13. To wrap up the rest of the scenes where he's just turning into the Hulk. Like, I'm not going to count every single second. That's 13. 14 to call Betty. 14 because he's at the presidential palace thing, the presidential speech. And then he turns into the Hulk, so I don't know if that counts as a different scene. So let's just say, what was that, 15? Let's say 15 for the whole, you know what? Let's say 15 for Ross, 16 for Red Hulk, because I don't know if he counts as being in it. And then 17 when he's in prison. He has about 17 scenes in the movie. Alright, Cap. He's in the bar at the beginning. He breaks into does the non-stealthy entrance that is somehow stealthy. Hallway fight scene. Mini boss. Talking with Soldier Man. Talking with Joaquin Phoenix. Going to Isaiah. Talking with Isaiah. Going in the limo. Getting to the White House. Talking with Ross. I guess technically going to the adamantium presentation. All the fight scenes. Chasing Isaiah. Going into the presidential bunker somehow. Talking with Taylor, going to Isaiah, talking in the truck, getting ambushed by Giancarlo Esposito, talking to Joaquin Phoenix before they leave for the secret military base, truck where they somehow find out that Isaiah was attacked, breaking into the military base. Let's say this whole sequence just counts as one scene, because it's basically just a sequence. Then he shows up at the military base so that way they can counter Stearns' mind control somehow, talks to Giancarlo Esposito, talks to Controversial Lady, talks to Nice Soldier Man again and tells him to get the pills, shows up on the aircraft carrier, talks to Ross, does the fight sequence, goes to the hospital to talk to Bucky and be sad about Joaquin Phoenix, shows up to talk to Stearns and arrest him, shows up to fight the Red Hulk, is there to escort Isaiah out of prison, goes to talk to Ross in prison, goes to talk to Joaquin Phoenix in the hospital, talks to Stearns, also in the raft, finds out that there's a multiverse. Alright, Isaiah. Isaiah scenes. Introduced in his gym scene, talks to Sam about not wanting to go to Ross, goes into the limo, takes a picture at the White House, goes to the adamantium speech, goes through the whole action scene, has his prison scene with Sam, is almost assassinated by the government guy, except he doesn't get to him in time, or he wasn't the target because Stearns doesn't want to kill Isaiah just yet, or he just wasn't able to kill Isaiah. And then I think Isaiah isn't seen again until he's released from prison. So he has that many scenes. Joaquin Phoenix is introduced on the airplane as Cap's helper, dresses up and becomes proper Falcon, talks with Sam about the suit, goes training with Isaiah, goes into the limo, takes the picture, goes to the adamantium presentation, does the action scene inside the White House, saving the French president, talks to Sam in the truck before he gets ambushed by Giancarlo Esposito, exposits to Sam everything that he needs to know before they head off into the military base to go find out that it's Stearns, is in the truck and finds out that Isaiah's prisoner cousin is attacked, but he's okay. Breaks into the military base, does the whole fight sequence stuff there. Goes to the aircraft carrier, does the fight sequence, gets blown up, goes to the hospital, and then we don't see him again until Sam visits him in the hospital after visiting Ross in prison. Okay, and then there is Taylor. Taylor is introduced after they take their picture at the White House and escort Sam to Ross before he asks him to reform the Avengers, which apparently is a bad thing. Is standing around mostly during the sequences where Sam takes pictures with the prime ministers of Japan and India, engages in the action scene for a bit at the White House sequence, is at the bunker when Sam goes and talks to Ross again, has a sequence when she talks to Sam and tells him not to be that guy, and then he says, nah, I'm gonna be that guy. Talks to Harrison Ford on the Peloton. I don't know if I counted that as a scene for Harrison, but yeah, she shows up to talk to him, where she's told to pick up Cap and Falcon. That's a good point. She shows up for when Ross gets angry and wants to declare war on Japan, where she notices that Ross is able to smash a concrete table with his bare hands and says nothing about it to Captain America, despite being there specifically to keep an eye on Ross. She literally doesn't do anything. She's specifically said as being Cap's eye on Ross. She is an inside man meant to relay information about Ross to Cap directly because she is a close friend of his. Yet, he declares war on Japan, and she doesn't give him a single phone call. She doesn't try to make any sort of connection or anything. She gets told to pick him up, and I think she maybe vaguely sends the FBI agents that get brainwashed and attack them when they get picked up by controversial lady. This movie as a whole just isn't worth it. It just doesn't matter. There's no point in watching this movie. Not for fun. It's not a so bad it's good movie. It's just not good. It's just not bad. It is just a thing that exists to take up money, absorb time, and make Anthony Mackie sound like a complete idiot when he has to, like, Anthony Mackie, why did you lose your career for this? Why do people risk everything? Their personal lives, their careers, their very values on garbage? Like, if this was a truly groundbreaking movie with themes and ideas that are uncomfortable for people to think about but important to discuss, I would be okay with this movie. But it's just nothing. Nothing happens in this movie. Nothing happens. No one does anything. The Avengers aren't formed at one point. The Avengers are formed at another point. Cap decides that he wants to be Captain America at the beginning, doesn't want to be Captain America in the middle, and then decides he wants to be Captain America again at the end. Joaquin Phoenix always wants to be Falcon, and nothing about that ever changes. He doesn't go through a character arc, and Controversial Lady's character arc is just learning to believe that, hey, maybe mind control is a thing. Black Widow, who was mind controlled, but probably doesn't know that because it's 80-yard line from some other random version of this movie. And like Captain America going off the grid and having a truck that's more expensive than his sister's house in Louisiana, it's just insulting to what you were trying to say in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And to have him be like, we're a free agent, and then have a Captain America office where he keeps his spare Captain America suits and all his trophies and collectibles on some US military base, but he doesn't want to work for the US government. He doesn't want Captain America to work with the President of the United States of America. And then Anthony Mackie says that Captain America doesn't represent America, or shouldn't represent America. I don't understand what's going on, guys. Just make a good, fun spy thriller movie with Captain America in it. What happened to superheroes, man? Why do you make it so bad? Comic book movies used to just be fun. Now you just go into a movie just going, well, I heard it was going to be bad, and then you come out of it and you're just like, yeah, that was pretty bad. Like, even normal people now are just like, yeah, these movies are just bad. The jokes just don't work. The characters just don't work. The themes don't work. The action doesn't work. The CGI is so terrible. The audio mixing is awful. Harrison Ford is just basically more ADR than man now. I just don't understand. I don't understand how you could have made this, Marvel. Please, Marvel, just stop. Just stop. You're not him anymore. You're not him. Just give up. You never will be. I don't want to see Daredevil. I don't want to see Iron Man. I don't want to see Punisher. I don't want Captain America. I don't want Fantastic Four. I don't care about the X-Men. I don't want any of it. Just leave me alone. Just stop it. I don't even like the comics anymore. Just stop superheroes. Let's just stop superheroes, please. Oh my god. What a terrible, terrible movie. We need to stop watching superhero movies.
Okay, save me from my pills, Sam.
Yes, sir. Ooh.
Oh, watch it.
Sorry, I didn't see you there.
Okay.
That's